Hello there. A warm welcome to another edition of Tech Trends, your weekly journey into the world of tech, innovation, and creativity, all through an African lens. Coming up on the program this week, we sit down with one of Africa's leading voices in tech, Dr. Juliet Ehimuan, as she shares insights from the DICE 2025 Global Immersion and her vision for a digitally empowered Africa. Also, Nigeria hosts its first ever national cybersecurity conference, bringing together experts and stakeholders to set a course for a safer digital future. That and more coming up in the next 25 minutes. Do stay with us. This is Tech Trends, and I'm Olayemi Oshidende. Dr. Juliet Ehimuan is one of Africa's most respected voices in technology, innovation, and digital transformation. As the founder of Beyond Limits, convener of the DICE platform, a former director of Google West Africa, a board director, and an investor, she has spent years shaping the continent's digital landscape and empowering the next generation of tech leaders. She recently returned from Los Angeles, where she led the DICE 2025 Global Immersion, an initiative that took a group of innovators in Africa to global powerhouses like Microsoft, Amazon, Tyler Perry Studios, and the Grammy Museum, among others, all in a bid to spark new ideas and strengthen cross-continental collaboration. In this interview, Dr. Heyman shares insights from the trip, the vision behind DICE, Beyond Limits, and why she believes technology and creativity can drive Africa's future. Here's our conversation. I think it's safe to say welcome back.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
I mean, you just returned from LA for the DICE 2025 Global Immersion. How was that experience for you?
Oh my goodness. It was a great experience. We went to Los Angeles and visited a number of places, businesses, incubators, entrepreneurs, had sessions with investors, professionals, creatives, policymakers in LA and Atlanta. So DICE is an acronym for Digital Innovation and Creative Excellence. And it's a platform that is designed to bring key stakeholders together for knowledge sharing, collaboration, partnerships, and investments. And when we talk about stakeholders, we're talking about, business leaders, startups, investors, policymakers, multilateral organizations, foreign missions as well. Because for us to achieve growth in a sustained and an accelerated fashion, these different stakeholders need to come together. And so with DICE, we have two sets of events. We have mixer events, where we bring people together on specific themes. So in Lagos, for example, we've had 3 mixer events where we talked about the creative space, monetization within the creative space. We've had one where we talked about business expansion, and we've had one that was focused on, co-creating a tech-enabled future. Now, one thing that is common amongst all of them is tech as an underlying enabler for growth across multiple sectors. So the mixers represent one set of activities, and then we have the immersion.
Yes, back to the immersion, right? Because you did have an interesting lineup. I saw that you were at the Microsoft Innovation Center, you were at Amazon, the Grammys Museum, and like mind-blowing places, right? That must have been incredibly inspiring for you. What was the plan, going for the immersion?
Yes, absolutely. So the idea with the immersions, because the world is increasingly connected. We don't live in a bubble, and you can't just stay in your own environment and be immune from what's happening. Anything happening in one part of the world affects business in this part of the world. And so it's important that we foster partnerships and connections and create opportunities for people to interact and also get a sense of the opportunities that exist. And that's what the immersion is about. The whole idea is to take leaders in private sector and in policy from this environment to other ecosystems. And so for this particular immersion to the LA and Atlanta ecosystems, the reason we chose LA and Atlanta was because the immersion was focused on digital innovation and also creativity. And LA, we all know Los Angeles, Hollywood, that's the hub of creativity in the US. And increasingly, Atlanta is becoming the second hub And they also have very strong tech communities. And so during this immersion, we went to some creative studios. We went to the Tyler Perry studio. We went to the Golden Voice. They are the producers of Coachella, which is the largest music festival in the US. We went to the Grammy Museum. That was really fun to just see some of those historic elements. And from a tech side, we went to, Microsoft, the Innovation Lab. We went to Amazon. We saw robots in action. We saw AI, cutting edge technologies in AI. We went to Google and BlackRock. BlackRock is a company that, they manage over $11 trillion in assets. So to just really see how they use technology to manage all these assets and, some of the success stories within the BlackRock community, that was incredible. And another great part of the immersion was, being able to connect with people, right? We had dinners with investors. We had with the diaspora. We have some great members of the diaspora community that are doing really great work out there in tech and in the creative space. We had a dinner in Atlanta with professionals and entrepreneurs. And it was great to have the Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy, Minister Hanatu Musa Musawa. She was with us on the immersion, and she had various engagements with stakeholders. So we had a roundtable with creatives in Los Angeles, and a lot of those creatives were, from the African diaspora. It was great to hear their feedback and just see some of the great work they're doing. There are some that are have featured in popular shows like Bob Hart's Abishola.
I know that.
Yes. So one of the actors was present at the round table. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, yes. Someone who's worked with Beyonce and a few others that were doing great things. The Africans are very talented and we're doing amazing things around the world. So immersions like this create an opportunity for us to see what's happening out there with our people and for them to get a peep into the opportunities and some of the momentum that we're building here. And of course, beyond the diaspora, we met with other leaders and investors and creatives as well. So that was really interesting.
You did mention the part of the focus was to foster collaboration and global partnerships, right? But aside those, what other conversations do you think we should be prioritizing now in Africa if we're to bring this home?
Yes, absolutely. So I think there's a big space for partnerships, particularly with tried and tested models, right? So I mentioned that we visited the Golden Voice, the producers of Coachella, and the minister was very keen on this. We're trying to promote tourism in the country. We're trying to attract more foreign direct investment. If we can partner with those types of entities, right, that already have the muscle, they've tried and tested, in such large scale productions, then, that can help us to, in some ways, get there faster. So that was great as well. And, seeing cutting edge technology in action in different ways. From energy, we visited a clean tech incubator, to manufacturing. We visited a helicopter company that produces helicopters from scratch. That's Robinson Helicopters. We went through the factory floor. We saw how they took a block of metal and created bolts and nuts out of that. That level of granularity, how they created the propellers, all the wiring, how they brought everything together, And we were in conversation about, how about creating a facility in Nigeria, right? So, by being on ground and meeting these people, it's easier to have conversations and build confidence around the opportunity, right? So that we can actually, create bridges that bring such projects and investments that can just really help us to scale our growth.
That's a lot you've definitely unpacked there for us. But I know you spoke about DICE a little bit earlier, but let's focus on it now. DICE is digital innovation and creative excellence. Now, these are big words that really speak to ambition.
Yes.
What was the plan setting out
with DICE? What were you seeking to achieve through that platform?
Yes. So I'm a big believer in the opportunities and the talent that exists in Africa. I'm very passionate about Africa. I'm passionate about growth and development. For 12 years before this, I was leading Google in West Africa. And as part of that work, we engaged with different parts of the ecosystem to raise the digital game, to try to build the digital ecosystem. When you think about the access landscape, when you think about enabling policies, when you think about creativity, with partnerships on YouTube, or when you think about digital skills, right? So we did a lot of those kinds of projects. And I realized we also launched Google for Startups, which is an accelerator program for early stage startups. And I just really saw the fact that there are lots of opportunities that can be ignited by creating these connections. If I take the startup space as an example, we've produced about 12 unicorns in the last decade in the tech entrepreneurship space. And that's great. But, when you think about a continent of 1.3 billion people, that's a small number. And if you compare it to, I always compare with the ecosystem in the UK, where in the last decade they've produced about almost 200 unicorns. And that's about 60 million people. And so we have a long way to go. But for every unicorn out there, there are a lot of other startups that are doing great work, but they don't have the visibility. They don't have the exposure. They don't have the support or the funding that can really help them get from where they are to the next level. So that's a classic example of a space where bringing people together, stakeholders together around relevant themes can make a difference, so that investors, for example, can meet with these startups and understand the different areas where we're seeing growth, understand the challenges better and the opportunities, and be able to build confidence around investing, creating those kinds of linkages. Tech is a straight enabler. Emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning, Internet of Things, can really help us accelerate growth on the continent, and being able to meet with innovators, see cutting edge technology in action, connect with developers. That's a good way of also facilitating two-way knowledge exchange that creates a win-win opportunity, so that we can really also be at the forefront of setting the pace with technology and making sure that African content is front and center as well in the AI revolution.
You listed a couple of challenges that startups face. We talk about support, funding, and which is part of what you're trying to do with DICE. But in practical terms, you've had experience working with a lot of the startups, especially during your time at Google, and even still what you're doing right now.
Yes.
There are a lot of gaps that need to be plugged. How do you think we can do that?
So, when you think about the startup space, some of the challenges and gaps that need to be plugged, one is access to funding. A lot of them struggle with getting access to funding. Another one is infrastructure, right? Infrastructure that can help them do what they do best, right? From basic, bandwidth, broadband infrastructure, power, and so on. And then mentorship. If you look at other ecosystems around the world, startups really benefited a lot from mentorship. If you look at a lot of the businesses that came out of Silicon Valley, as an example, and you deep dive into the stories of these founders, you'll see that a lot of them actually had mentors to really support them, because the characteristic of a classic startup founder, quite often they're young. Maybe it's their first foray into the workspace, right? Maybe they have competence in a particular area. Maybe it's a tech area, and they've built this great app. The fact that you've built a great app doesn't make you, very competent in managing a CFO or pitching for funds, right? And a lot of other dealing with regulators. So that mentorship and support is really important. And if you look at the ratio of tech hubs, for example, in this environment and other parts of the world, you'll see that there is a gap, right? So we need to provide a lot more infrastructural support, mentorship support, build more communities where startups can really learn from one another, and also provide more, access to funding so that, these startups can really, focus and be empowered to build big businesses that can, create jobs and help to contribute to economic growth.
And that's a great place to end the conversation with you, Dr. Juliet Ehimuan, founder of Beyond Limits and convener of the DICE platform. And well, all the best in your future endeavors. And we look forward, to other DICE immersions.
Thank you.